Well, good evening, good afternoon, Kansas City. This is your host, Louis George Walker, and coming to you live from the KUAW radio studios. That's right, we're coming to you today, and we're broadcasting live and in living color. Got to get this other screen out of here, but we're getting there. There we go. We get rid of that microphone. All right. So I want to welcome you to the BFTAA and More show. Yes, this is BFTAA and More, Kansas City's global community radio station, KUAW, coming to you from the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center, located in 4510 East Linwood Boulevard in the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center building, formerly Milton Moore Elementary School. But we're broadcasting to you live. We're coming to you over Facebook. We're coming to you on YouTube, Twitch. We're also online if you go to mytuner.com, the TuneIn app, Radio Box, Radio Garden. There's a lot of ways to pick us up. If you have a smart speaker, tell your smart speaker to play KUAW radio and you'll get us there. We're also on Roku and on Apple. So you can pick up KUAW radio. You can pick up this broadcast 24 hours a day. And when we're broadcasting live, you can catch us right here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. We'll share it over to Twitter until we can get them to open things back up for us. But we're broadcasting and bringing you a great show. So I hope you're ready for it today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Chiefs. They won the Super Bowl. That was a great thing. We have a two-time repeat Super Bowl winner. They are a dynasty now. They're considered a dynasty by a lot of people. So it's time for the Chiefs dynasty to rise. And we want to talk about the parade. It was a great parade. And then at the end of the parade, there was an incident of some shooting. We want to talk about that. Was listening to our prosecutor, Jean Baker, today. And she brought up a good point I hadn't thought about, and I was looking it up a little bit online. But what if the people did the shooting really have committed no crimes? They've got a couple of young people arrested, but it could be a thing of stand your ground. If the stand your ground laws apply, then maybe they didn't commit a crime or not a crime of second degree or third degree murder. It could be accidental death, because if you're defending yourself and you have a right to defend yourself, if you shoot somebody that's attacking you, that's self-defense. But if you accidentally miss that person and hit somebody else, what is that ruled as? Is that a crime or just an accident, an accidental shooting? So we have to look into that. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But if you have any ideas or any thoughts on that, give us a call at 816-599-6893. That's 816-599-6893. I'm going to see about if I can bring up the chat. If I can bring up the chat, we'll pick you up there also. But you can give us a call, 816-599-6893. And when we get to that section, we'll talk about it. But what are your thoughts on the gun laws in Missouri? And do you think stand your ground should apply in the case of the shooting that went on at the Union Station? Because if somebody was being attacked, if they said there was an argument, but if somebody swung on somebody and they felt threatened for their life, would they be justified in pulling a gun and starting to shoot? And if in the process of that shooting they missed or the gun stuck or who knows what, that you shot some other people accidentally, is that a crime or is that just an accident? We'll talk about that and other things. But you're listening to KUAW Radio, Kansas City's global community radio station. And we're about STEM. We like to get kids involved in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics so we can do STEM work. We've had kids this weekend, a great robots class, and we're going to some of the schools in the area and demonstrating robots. And we want to let you know that we're opening our robot enrollment. So if you have a child from 9 to 18 that you'd like to get involved in a robotics program, contact the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. You can go to our website at www.bftaa.org. That's right, www.bftaa.org. Or hit us up on Facebook. You can go to Facebook, Black Family Technology Awareness Association -BFTAA. We're there. We'd love to talk to you. We're on Facebook. You can also get us on our YouTube channel. It's at BFTAA. And on Twitter, it's BFTAA. So go to any of those sites. Even on LinkedIn, you can reach the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. So we would love to have your child involved in our technology programs. We're doing robots. We're going to be bringing the drones in pretty soon, and even some coding, as we're talking to some people about doing some coding here. So we'd like to work with your young people. And also we could use volunteers. So if you're a hobbyist, an engineer, a computer scientist, or if you just like working with young people and technology, building things and passing on your knowledge to them from industry or what have you, get in touch with us. We can use you. You can come in and help with our classes that we have here. So get in touch with the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. You can also call us, 816-599-6893. That's 816-599-6893, and you can reach us there or leave a message, and we'll be glad to work with you. We also we work constantly to bring you information from NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, about the things that are going on in space exploration. So we're going to start the show off again today, as we usually do, with what's up at NASA, and then we have a couple other NASA podcast that we want to show with you. So let's start off with this week at NASA.
A commercial mission heads to the moon with NASA science. Our Artemis II crew conducts some pre-flight training, and a major milestone for a planetary science mission. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. On February 15th, Intuitive Machines' first robotic lunar lander mission to the moon's surface launched aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from our Kennedy Space Center. The mission is carrying NASA scientific research and technology demonstrations to help us better understand the challenging environment of the lunar South Pole region and improve landing precision and safety ahead of future Artemis astronaut missions to the moon. As part of pre-flight training for their Artemis II mission around the moon next year, the Artemis II astronauts recently practiced the recovery procedures that will be used to safely retrieve the crew after they splash down in the Pacific Ocean at the end of the mission. Artemis II is the first crewed flight on NASA's path to establishing a long-term presence at the moon for scientific discovery and exploration through the Artemis campaign. Our Europa Clipper mission has passed a major milestone. With less than 9 months to go in the countdown to its launch, the massive spacecraft, which is being assembled at our Jet Propulsion Laboratory, has been outfitted with its science instruments. Set to launch in October 2024, the spacecraft will head to Jupiter's ice-covered moon, Europa, where a salty ocean beneath the frozen surface may hold conditions suitable for life. The Airborne and Satellite Investigation of Asian Air Quality, or Asia AQ mission, is a collaboration between NASA and Korea's National Institute of Environmental Research. The mission will use aircraft, including NASA's DC-8 and G-3 aircraft, satellites, and ground-based instruments to study the air quality in Asia as part of a global effort to better understand the air we breathe. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more about what else we're up to, check out nasa.gov.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Chelsea Bayarte. It's been a busy week aboard the International Space Station. One cargo spacecraft departed, and another is set to make its delivery this weekend. The astronauts continued their work on science experiments, all while getting ready to return to Earth in just a few weeks. It seems like a lot, but the crew still had time to celebrate Valentine's Day in space. The week kicked off with the departure of a resupply spacecraft. 6 months ago, the Progress 85 cargo spacecraft arrived at the International Space Station, delivering food and supplies to the crew. With its mission complete, the spacecraft undocked from the space station Monday night, burning up harmlessly in the atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean just 3 hours later. This opened up a spot on the Zvezda service module for a new arrival. The space station crew won't have to wait long for another spacecraft to take its place. On Wednesday, the Progress 87 spacecraft made a Valentine's Day launch, lifting off at 10:25 p.m. Eastern Time. It launched atop a Soyuz rocket from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Progress 87 is delivering food, fuel, and supplies to the space station. However, it has not arrived at the space station just yet. Progress 87 will finish its 2-day journey on Saturday, February 17th. You can watch live as the spacecraft makes its final approach and docks to the space station starting at 12:30 a.m. Eastern on NASA Plus, YouTube, or anywhere you stream NASA TV. The space station crew got to celebrate Valentine's Day this week. The astronauts have the ability to call and video chat with their families, and sometimes cargo spacecraft deliver chocolate and other candies for them to enjoy. Some of our photography-savvy astronauts have even spent some time looking out the window and finding some heart-shaped locations to snap a picture of down below. But another activity that gets their hearts pumping is helping to collect cardiovascular data. Researchers are still assessing the effects of space travel on the heart, but an investigation from the Canadian Space Agency called Space Health aims to learn more. In this study, astronauts wear a biomonitor for real-time monitoring of cardiovascular health before, during, and after their spaceflight. This system could be used to mitigate risks on future long-duration missions and provide further protection for first responders on the ground. Space Health is just one of the many studies that have used the microgravity environment to study the heart. By understanding heart changes in astronauts, the research could also help find ways to prevent and treat heart disease on Earth. The Crew 7 crew has contributed to hundreds of experiments during their time in space, but in just a few weeks, their mission will come to an end. But before they return to Earth, all 4 crew members will participate in a news conference on Wednesday, February 21st to answer your questions live from space about their mission. If you want to ask a question to someone who has spent the past 7 months in space, head over to social media and submit your question using #AskNASA. That's it for Space to Ground this week. Thanks for watching.
All right, that was Space to Ground from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. We're so glad to be able to bring that to you. Yeah, so we like to bring you news of things that are going on in space, things that are going on in science and technology. We're even looking for more podcasts, more technical information and coding information that we can bring to excite you and to let you know what's going on, because we have to be aware of the technology in order to be able to want to use the technology or be a part of it. This artificial intelligence is a big thing that's going on right now, and we're really glad that we're a lot of our people, a lot of African Americans are taking part in this. You know, we've always been a part of all the research and development going on, even though sometimes it doesn't look like it. But we're involved in that. So if you haven't tried out any AI yet, you might want to do that. The artificial intelligence is pretty exciting. I've been playing around with it myself, and it's kind of fun, and then it's a way of learning something new. Virtual reality is going to be a big thing, and we're going to be looking at virtual reality helmets and goggles that we'll be able to introduce to our young people going forward, and some of the programming that they can do with that. So all of these things are good. All of these things are They can be bad. I mean, there's things that can happen with deep fakes and all the other stuff that you hear about on the news. But don't let that scare you off and say you don't want to try it at all. You know, sometimes the news makes you think everything about a new technology is bad, and it's not necessarily so. So, you know, keep an open mind and say, you know, hey, I need to see this for myself and work with it a little bit. It's just like the internet. You know, there's a lot of bad things that happen on the internet. I'm not going to lie to you. But there's also a lot of good things that have been brought to us via the internet. So we want to make sure that we try and get the full image or the full thought of something new that's coming along so that we don't just say, well, it's no good or it's something that we should stay away from. All right, well, that's my rant on that for today. Now, we're going to give you a little bit of news that's not about space. So here we go with the Urban Network News. Now, Urban Network News is coming to you from KUAW Radio, and we're glad to bring it to you. So let's check it out.
This is UNN Urban Network News. I'm Alexander Caden, along with Brooklyn Alexander. 2 teenagers have been detained in the Super Bowl parade shooting in Kansas City and have been officially charged. The Jackson County Family Court Division in Kansas City said that the 2 unidentified juveniles had been charged with counts relating to gun possession and resisting arrest. The court also said that additional charges are expected. Representative Jim Clyburn, a Democrat from South Carolina, has announced that he's stepping down from his Democratic leadership position in the House. Clyburn said that although he's retiring from leadership, he's still running for re-election to his congressional seat.
An Oklahoma country station that initially refused to play Beyonce's 2 new country singles has suddenly had a change of heart, especially since the Beehive lit up the internet with claims of racism and discrimination. The station now says it has both of the songs and it loves Beyonce. By the way, Beyonce is not the only one releasing country albums. Post Malone and Lana Del Rey have country albums on the way as well.
A Rhode Island man was arrested and charged with using gasoline to set several fires around the exterior of Pentecostal Shiloh Gospel Temple in North Providence, Rhode Island. Most of the congregation, which has been established for about 35 years, is black and African American. Ed White, who was to be the first black astronaut back in the day, is finally getting his due. A new National Geographic documentary titled The Space Race chronicles the stories of black astronauts and their first pioneer, 90-year-old Ed Dwight. Congress is about to vote on whether the FBI can spy on black activists without warrants. But do you think the FBI is going to stop? I don't.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Then here's a great idea. Donate your car and help veterans and their families. Yes, one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program and we'll come and remove your car for free. And you get a tax deduction. Call the Veteran Donation Program now. Here's the number.
800-880-5013. That's 800-880-5013.
You've been listening to UNN. For more national news and information for and about people of color, visit our website at myunn.net.
Whoops. Okay, I guess you can hear me now. All right, that was UNN News, and we're so glad that we're able to bring that to you. And it was interesting that they were talking about the shooting and the 2 juveniles that have been arrested, charged, have a couple of charges on them. And it's going to be interesting as this winds its way into the courtrooms, or if it goes into the courtrooms, because they're them being juveniles, we may not see a lot of the proceedings, or if any of the proceedings that go on. Only if they get certified as adults will we have the right to know and that is to protect the juveniles and to make sure that you don't necessarily ruin somebody's life for something that maybe wasn't their fault, or that there is some extenuating circumstance, or they're too young to comprehend what was going on. So we haven't heard what their ages are or anything about these young men, so we really don't know. And that's something that we'll have to look into, or just keep our eyes open for, because I don't think you can dig in, nor should you, to look into that. But as we're talking about that, one of the things that comes up, and I'm trying to see, hopefully I didn't lose that. Let's see what I got here. May have that news flash right now. Okay, yes, here's the information that I wanted to give you. As we talk about it, Missouri lawmakers returned to the state capitol for a new debate on guns after the Kansas City parade shooting. So these are some of the things that you might need to know. Missouri has some of the most expansive gun rights among states as a result of a series of measures passed by the Republican-led legislature over the past few decades. Missouri currently has no age restrictions on gun use and possession, and allows permitless carry. So, with no age restrictions, you can't really say that the kids shouldn't have had guns, because there's no age restrictions on having a gun or possession. And it allows permitless carry. You don't have to have a permit or be registered in any way to carry a gun in the state of Missouri. So that's something that we need to definitely be aware of. So the kids being there with guns were not breaking any law. You know, only if they were in a gun-free zone. I don't know where those zones are, but if they were out in a park, I don't know if that's considered gun-free. If they were on a street, if that was on Pershing Road, is that a gun-free zone? I haven't seen signs about that. But we also have a stand your ground law. So if you're attacked, if somebody threatens you, or you feel threatened for your life, you have a right to use deadly force. So if the teenagers or the people that were there, if somebody got in a fight, if one person hit another or threatened another in any kind of way, the other person has a right to defend themselves. So they could pull out a gun and shoot them. So now, if you start to shoot at a person, if you miss and you hit somebody else, is that against the law, or is that just an accidental shooting? If somebody threatens me and I pull out my gun and go to shoot them, but I miss and hit somebody else, I wasn't intending to shoot that other person. They could say that that was a accident, that it was not directed toward that person in any shape, form, or fashion. It was directed at the person who had threatened me, who made me feel that my life was in danger. So we have to look at a lot of things before we jump and say, well, they had no right, or they shouldn't have been there with guns and stuff. You have a right in Missouri to carry a gun anywhere except where designated that you can't. And they were trying to introduce a law, or they just stopped since that shooting. But the Missouri Majority Floor Leader, John Patterson, a suburban Kansas City Republican, has said 2 bills related to guns, one that would allow for gun possession in church, so that your church could not say you couldn't bring a gun in, and public transit, that you could have gun possessions on church, on the buses, and another that would exempt firearms and ammunition from sales tax. So they're not going to move forward with those bills now, but those were 2 bills that they were getting ready to introduce this year in this session, to say that you could take your guns to church, you could take your guns on the buses or in the Ubers or on taxi cabs, anywhere that you wanted. So we have expansive laws. So before you get up in arms and say, well, why do kids have guns? If you're 15, 16-year-old, there's no law say you can't have a gun. Okay? You can have a gun for protection. If you feel threatened, you have the right to use that gun. You have a stand your ground law so that you don't have to run or get away from the person. If somebody's making you feel, if they definitely strike you or you think your life is in danger, then there becomes a time where you could use it. You are allowed, for the most part, adults are allowed to carry concealed weapons without a permit. So we don't want to jump to conclusions and say, now the loss of life, of innocent lives, is definitely not something that should happen ever. And even the wounding of children and all of that. But that could all be an accident. It could all be accidental. I know it sounds crazy and you say, well, I'm just being, ridiculous about it. But when it gets to a court of law, we'll have to see what can happen with these young people. Because it may have been an accidental shooting, not intended to hurt anybody, definitely not intended to kill anybody, and they may not have broken any laws. Because, they throw that resisting arrest up on everything. That's a good way to make sure you can hold somebody. Well, we got him for resisting arrest. You didn't put your arms behind you fast enough. You didn't turn around. Just like the one gentleman who was arrested for not getting out of the way fast enough. So the police arrested him. They did release him. But he was arrested and has his picture on the web, and he was on the news yesterday that he's been receiving death threats and stuff, that he was one of the shooters. Somebody had posted his picture up because they saw him in handcuffs at the parade shooting thing, and he was in handcuffs. So some people jumped to the conclusion he was a shooter, that he's guilty. They had him in handcuffs, so he was somebody that's guilty, and we need to do something to him. That's a rush to judgment. It turns out he hadn't did anything. The police let him go, no charges whatsoever. So, you have to be careful. Sometimes we see things and we want to rush to judgment and not give it time. I know that everybody's emotions are high and there's a lot of feelings going around, but we need to let the law and let that cooler heads prevail, because this gentleman could have been hurt. People, like you said, he was on the news. They've been receiving death threats. He's trying to get his life back, and he had done nothing wrong. They said, he said he had a few drinks. I guess the thing they could get him with is public intoxication. But he was in handcuffs. You saw the picture, and some people rushed to judge that's one of the shooters. And it was posted, not officially. Now, the police didn't post this picture as one of the shooters or none of the major news outlets, but they said it was on social media. His picture was on social media, so somebody got a hold of the news and made some clips out of it, took some still photos of it, and posted them and said this was one of the shooters. And that's something that we have to be real careful of. The two people that they have in custody right now, we don't know what's going on with them. We don't know what the evidence is. Said they found a gun. Well, there was probably a lot of people at that parade with a gun. So everybody that had a gun at that parade were not shooters. Now, not to defend them or defend this shooting, but if you're going to allow guns everywhere, things are going to happen. We as a state, we as a people want everybody to have a gun or be able to defend themselves. Not to say that that's wrong, but you have to say that if something like that goes on, there can be accidents. If a lot of people are carrying guns, everybody doesn't use good judgment. Common sense isn't always so common. So if everybody has guns, things like this are going to happen from time to time. Might not like it, it might sound callous or what have you, but let's face the facts as what they are. But that was a thing that happened, and it took away from a great parade, a great season of football. One gentleman I saw on the social media post was, people were getting on him for posting about the parade in a good light. But as he was saying, we don't want that one incident to say that the parade, that the whole thing was no good. No, I was down at the parade, my wife and we had a great time. We left. We were on the parade route, so once the parade passed us, we left and went to go get something to eat. There was no fights, no big disturbances where we were. The Chiefs were down. They were shaking hands, signing autographs, intermingling with the crowd and just having a great time. The police were throwing footballs back and forth with the crowd. It was a very good atmosphere. So it's not that the whole parade or that the whole reason for the parade was marred. It was one incident that happened at the end when it was over. Yes, it was bad. Yes, it was terrible. But, I do want to say that there were thousands, hundreds of thousands of people down there having a good time with some camaraderie, with just having a great time together and celebrating this Super Bowl victory. So we're glad that we were able to get down there. Really sorry for the loss of life, a fellow radio broadcaster that lost her life, and it's terrible. But if you have any opinions about this, you can post them on our Facebook page. I'll be looking at that. I'm going to be answering them. I'd love to, talk with you about it. But, yeah, we still want to say that the Chiefs had a great year. It was a good year for the Chiefs. We hope that we can get a three-peat. That's something that's never been done in the history of professional football. With the Super Bowl, now the Green Bay Packers had won, would have been 3 championships or more than 3 championships in a row when they won the first 2 Super Bowls because they had won the NFL championship before then. But nobody has won 3 Super Bowls in a row. So we got a chance to make history next year. I hope that the young men will keep themselves in shape, that the coaches and the front office, that they make good selections in the draft, that we try and keep as many of our good players as we can, although being that this is a business, we have to say some people may move on to go for more money, and that's okay. You can't blame them for that because their time in the light is short, and they have to look out for their families over the long haul. So, if there's more money to be had, that might be the thing to go for. But it was a great year, and my hat's off, a big salute to the Kansas City Chiefs. We also like to see that a lot of people are stepping up to support the family of the lady who lost her life, and to the other victims. Patrick Mahomes and his wife had went to Children's Mercy Hospital. So many of the players have been cited for their heroic actions and then for just their compassion to help others in this time and stuff. And that's always a good thing. Kansas City is strong. Kansas City is a great city. So we're going to continue to be that great city. I know Kansas City will. But that's my rant. That's my little 2 cents for the day, and I wanted to get that out to you. But yes, I want to let you know that the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, as I was saying earlier, we are opening enrollment so that you can enroll your child in our Lego and VEX robotics programs. We meet on Saturdays from 12:30 to 2:30. It's 2 hours. That we're going through robotics, giving them the basics right now because our competition for this school year is over, but we want to train our kids up so that they're ready for next year and so that they learn some of the basics that you don't have time to go over as we're getting ready for competition. So we're showing the kids a lot of basic robotics, basics mechanics, that's trying to tell them how they can make their robots run faster, how to understand gear ratios, what that does for the speed or the torque of a motor, the power that you have. So giving them a little bit of science and education behind it. So if you'd like to get your child involved in a great robotics program, and there are a lot of them around Kansas City. We happen to have the VEX robotics program and Lego robotics, but there's also First in Kansas City, and there's Best Robotics, and there's probably 3 or 4 more. Spiro is around. There's a lot of ways that kids can learn how to work with robots, and robots are a very important part of the future. I mean, these self-driving cars are what? Robots. So as they're trying to develop self-driving cars, they're getting young people that have a lot of times been on robotics teams that are working on things like this, that are understanding what they're trying to accomplish with that. So from the moon landings to the Mars rovers to deep sea exploration to the drones that you see flying are all robotic devices. They're robots. So when you talk about robots, you're not just talking about the things that walk and stuff, but the things that fly, that swim, that do a lot of the things that we want, that build cars and operate on people. All of that is being done with robotics. There's robots involved in a lot of the things that we do and that we are doing, and it's going to be more in the future. So we want to get our young people involved in it. If you'd like to have Black Family Technology Awareness Association come to your school or your church or to your community organization to talk, to show you some demonstrations for the whole family, for families, for children and all, get in touch with the BFTAA. You can contact us at www.bftaa.org. You can email us at bftaa@sbcglobal.net. You can also contact us on Facebook at the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, at this radio station, KUAW, which is a part of BFTAA. This is part of BFTAA media programs, KUAW. You can give us a call here if you want to get your kid involved in robotics, 816-599-6893 that you see going across the screen right now. So if you forget the number or how to get in touch with us, pull up one of our old broadcasts and you'll see the number, you'll see the not the email as much, but the Facebook page, YouTube page, all of those things and ways that you can contact us. So we want you to reach out. We'll come to your school. We'll come to your church, to your community organization, to your club. Let's talk about robotics. Let's talk about technology and how we can move that forward in our community. Let's give our young people other avenues and opportunities that maybe sometimes that some of the things that get them in trouble won't seem so enticing if we can show them that there are other opportunities, other avenues that they could be pursuing right now. So help us, help the community, help the world with technology. This is the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. I am your host, Louis George Walker. And before I go, I want to bring you the last thing that you've seen earlier this month, but we want to refresh you for every month with it, and that is what's up at NASA. So when you look up at the sky at night, especially in the wintertime when the air is not moving, it's still, you can see better if you go out at night now. Then when it's hot and the air is kind of wavy, you get the heat that makes the air wavy and it's harder to see. So we're going to let you see what are the things up right now that you can see in the night sky, and especially for the latter part of this month. So this is about stargazing, looking at the planets and all, and it's what's up. This is from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Let's check it out.
What's up for February? Venus and Mars make quite the pair, while Jupiter and the Moon are each other's Valentine, and observing M81, aka Bode's Galaxy. Venus is still a brilliant beacon in the morning, rising in the couple of hours before the sun. It has been sinking lower in the sky for the past couple of months though, and by the end of February it's pretty much getting lost in the light of sunrise. It will start making its return as an evening sight in July. You can catch the bright planet together with a slim crescent moon on the morning of February 6th, just as the sky starts to brighten. Next, Valentine's Day brings a nice pairing to enjoy with someone special. That evening, look for the crescent moon near Jupiter, high in the southwest following sunset. They're just a couple of finger widths apart on the sky, meaning most binoculars will show them in the same field of view. And speaking of the moon, NASA's Viper moon rover is planned to launch later this year, and you can send your name to the moon along with it.
That's a robot.
Visit nasa.gov/send-your-name-with-Viper for details. Returning to the inner planets, as Venus begins its exit, we find Mars returning to view. The red planet left the evening sky last September, passing through conjunction, where it was on the opposite side of the sun from Earth and thus not visible for a few months. It's now just starting to be visible in the pre-dawn sky. In February, it's quite low and not super bright, but you can observe it brightening and rising ever earlier in the coming months. Those with an unobstructed view toward the southeast horizon can look for a close approach of Mars and Venus as the pair are rising during the last week of February. February is a good time to view one of the famed Messier objects known as M81. This is a spiral galaxy similar to our own Milky Way, but just a bit smaller, and it's one of the brightest galaxies in the night sky. It's located about 11.8 million light-years away from us, which means if you're able to observe it, those photons of light hitting your eye have been traveling through space for more than 11 million years to reach you.
Wow.
It was discovered by astronomer Johann Bode in 1774, which is where it gets its other common name, Bode's Galaxy. At the time, it was simply cataloged as a nebula, or faint fuzzy patch. It wouldn't be until the work of Edwin Hubble in the 1920s that many such faint fuzzy objects were understood to be self-contained galaxies of stars outside the Milky Way and incredibly distant from us. M81 is a bit too dim to see with the unaided eye, but it's visible with binoculars or a small telescope where it appears as a dim patch of light. With a 6-inch telescope, you can resolve the galaxy's bright core, and with an 8-inch telescope, you can begin to make out the spiral arms. Locating M81 is not too difficult with the Big Dipper or the Plow to guide you. Starting with the star on the end corner called Dubhe, imagine a line twice the distance from the star on the opposite corner of the Dipper, Phecta. Pointing your telescope or binoculars in that area ought to put you pretty close to M81. You might also notice its faint fuzzy companion nearby, which is M82. This is another galaxy but seen edge-on, and it gets its common name, the Cigar Galaxy, from this appearance. This pair of galaxies is circumpolar in the northern hemisphere, meaning they rotate around the north celestial pole and never set. Unfortunately, this means they're not really visible from the southern hemisphere. Although it's visible all year in the northern hemisphere, from about February through May you'll find M81 high in the northern sky in the first half of the night, making it easier to observe. So grab your telescope or find a local astronomy event with NASA's Night Sky Network and check out M81, Bode's Galaxy, a distant cousin to our home galaxy, the Milky Way. Here are the phases of the moon for February. Stay up to date on NASA's missions exploring the solar system and beyond at science.nasa.gov. I'm Preston Dykes from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's what's up for this month.
All right. That's our show for today. We went a little bit over time, but be sure and join us every Monday from 5 to 5:45 or a little bit past for the BFTAA and More show with your host, me. I'm George Walker. Glad to be with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.